Hey, everybody. For those of you who don't know, my name is... Whoa, it's going again. All right, the slides are being really weird. All right, hang on a second. Let's see if we can get that going. Here we go. All right, cool. All right, for those of you who don't know, my name is Michael Forrest, and welcome to It's Go Time. All right, now before we get going, I'm going to ask if you guys cannot text me while I'm up here, because when you're moving around, you're doing all this stuff, and all of a sudden you get hit with a wall of text, it can really throw you off. I'd appreciate it if you guys don't do that. All right. Also, if you could stay off of this raised up stage area, this way nobody blocks this big display behind me, and it gives me a little bit of room to move around, do the whole hosting thing, right? Also, you're going to notice in your menu wheel on the lower left, right, the collection of circles there, you're going to see at the very top of that is a microphone icon that looks kind of like this, right? And when that is clear, that means we can hear everything that's happening around you. But when it's red, because we've gone ahead and we've turned it to red, that means you're muted. So if somebody comes into your space and says, hey, are you still on that thing? Feel free to answer them, because we're not going to hear any of that, right? Likewise, if you have maybe like a barking dog or something in the background, you're not going to face social ruin by becoming known as the avatar that suddenly started barking during its go time, right? Now, just because you're muted doesn't mean you can't express yourself. You're going to see in your menu wheel, you've got this pink-cheeked smiley face emoji, looks kind of like this right here, right? And when you click on that, your emoji panel is going to open up, and it's going to give you a wide variety of options with which to express yourself. So if I share something really deep, something powerful, and it touches you right here, and you feel it building up, you can just let it out and let it flow just like that. Maybe I got some backup dancers backstage, right? They come out here and we break into, it's Go Time the musical, and Dorian starts singing, and it's an amazing performance. You can throw up the applause that I live for, and I can take a moment to drink it all in because it feels good, right? If I ask you guys a yes or a no question, you could say yes by smiling like this. You can say no by frowning like this. Or if something funny happens, you can show me you're laughing by doing the silly face emoji here. That'll work, right? And then there's this thing, right? This is by far the most distracting of all the emojis available. And this is to be used in an emergency. This is not how you ask a question. We will be taking questions and comments at the end. But if, for example, I'm moving my arms around, it looks like I'm saying something, and you're like, wow, he's really animated, but there's no sound coming out. That's the kind of thing I want to know about. That's our pact, our sacred bond, right? Likewise, if maybe, the moderators have seen Go Time, one too many times, right? And they've had enough, and they, go to burn down the display behind me, and I'm up here and I'm talking and I don't know. You might want to let me know about that by raising that hand up. If I see one hand go up like that, I'm probably just going to keep on going, because maybe somebody just messing around, because it can be distracting, right? But if I see 5 going up at one time, I know that's a problem that I need to address, right? Now, what is Go Time about? Go Time is an event for Oculus Go users, but all are welcome. So if you're on another device, feel free to hang out. You may pick up some useful information that helps the Go community in Altspace, because there are a lot of Go users in Altspace. It's really a massive community, and it's growing all the time. It's getting bigger and bigger, and soon Go users will take over Altspace completely. But first, you need to learn the maneuvers. You need to learn the tools. You need to learn how to get through this experience, because you know what? Being on a Go in Altspace has its challenges. All right. And speaking of challenges, I've been in like a bed for about the past couple of years due to a medical condition. It's gotten a lot better. But when I first came into Altspace about a year and a half ago, I could not wait to get this headset on, right? You guys remember that? The very first time you put on the headset, that feeling like you were being taken away to another place? It's amazing. There's nothing like it. And, I'd been reading about Altspace for a while before I came in, so I could not wait to get in here. And it was my first stop. Very first thing when I got my headset, I came straight to Altspace. I stepped out of that load screen, and the very first thing I did in here was I looked up, right? And I didn't see these wood beams on the ceiling right now. I saw the sky. And that sky looked a lot like what I remember the real world sky looking like. And you know what? I was grateful for this. I was so grateful I started volunteering for Altspace right away, right the very first day. And you know what happened? I kept running out of battery power. I couldn't make it through an entire event. I'd have to recharge. I'd have to come back in, find the event host, and apologize for flaking out. So I got off to a rocky start. But you know what? I didn't take it laying down. Well, I mean, I was laying down, but I didn't take it, right? What I did was I kept asking questions, right? I kept asking questions. How do I solve this problem? And what happened was things I learned by asking those questions eventually led to this event. I'm going to share with you all some of the things I learned. But in the very beginning, I heard some things. Like I was told that on an Oculus Go, I wouldn't be able to work this laser pointer here, right? You know what? That turned out to not be true. I absolutely could do that. These slides behind me, I was told that I wouldn't be able to work these slides. And you know what? That turned out to not be true. And I was told that despite having a background presenting material like this, right, that I would not be able to host events on an Oculus Go because my device wasn't reliable enough. And you know what? that turned out to not only be true, but I went on to become a very prolific event host. I've hosted over 300 events in Altspace, and more than half of them I was wearing an Oculus Go. All right, I did them pretty reliable. I like to think I did a good job. All right, so but where do people get this impression? It's like a disconnect between what people think it's like being on the go and what reality the experience is actually like. Right. Well, most of the problems that you're going to have on a go are actually solvable, and the ones that aren't are manageable. All right, so we're going to go over how to do that. And there's two paths you can take. You can start with the device you already have on your head. So before you even leave here today, you can have some tips that are going to basically make your device perform better in here, right? And also you can upgrade your experience to exceed the limitations of your device. And I say it that way. Listen, those of you who have been here before know I can't stand this term. If you're on the Altspace Discord or some of the other Discords, you're going to hear things like, weaker device, inferior device. And when you hear this stuff, it doesn't feel too good, right? It doesn't. It really doesn't feel good when you hear stuff like that. And, you got to remember something. All right. When you hear terms like this, is another term that gets thrown around. Because listen, the Oculus Go is a great introduction to VR. It's a really great way to get used to it. I'm on a Quest now, but if I had started out on a Quest, I would not have stayed. All right. On the Oculus Go, you don't have to worry about vertical movement. You don't have to worry about the complexity of two controllers, right? And it allows you to get used to VR at your own pace at, a pretty affordable price too, right? So it's a really great device, and I feel about the Go the way most people feel about their first car, right? I really do. And, listen, there's another word that gets tossed around Altspace an awful lot, and that's communities, right? There's a lot of rich and diverse communities represented in Altspace. There's a lot of, different groups in here. And, you have to remember that you're the important part of that equation. So you have to remember that you're not your device any more than you are your house or your car. So if you hear terms like this, don't forget that. That's very important. All right. Now let's start with the device you already have on your head. You may not realize this, but your device is going to lose power even when it's not in use, right? Because, when you put it down in the evening, you might have 100% battery power, and then you put it on in the morning, you're going to notice that the battery charge is less. And if you come into Altspace with, say, a 20% battery charge, you're going to notice that your screen flickers, so you're going to have problems, right? So what can happen is, because, your device is looking for, app updates, it's looking for firmware updates, it's doing all this stuff when you're not wearing it. Maybe it's got a pen pal on the other side of the world. Maybe your headset has a whole secret life you don't know anything about, and that can be devastating. All right. So what you're going to want to do is, your first thing to improve your performance is you're going to want to start with an advanced position. Like, let's say you go to altvr.com and you see what events are on tonight, and you see, oh, wow, it's go time. I've heard great things about the host. I've heard he's got that shirt, right? Got to go check that out. Right. And what you can do is you're going to want to charge the device about an hour before you come in, so that this way you start it with 100% battery power. Right. This is going to make sure that you're performing your best. And the second you get that headset on for the very first time, what you want to do is, and make this a habit, every time you put on your headset, that power button you press to turn it on, that center button, what you want to do is you want to press and hold that for about 4 seconds. Right. And when you do that, you're going to see 3 buttons appear in the air in front of you, and that middle button is going to be the restart button. And when you press that restart button, your device is going to restart and it's going to clear out all these temporary files. So it's going to put your device in its best state. You got 100% power, and I like to think of that restarting the device like that as clearing out your mind, right? So you've cleared your mind, you got 100% power, and you step in on that load screen. And once you get in Altspace, you may have noticed what an important role body language plays in here. You can say so much without saying anything at all. Like if you're in an event like this, and one of our moderators comes up to you and they start shaking their head back and forth like this, nice and slow, that means don't do that thing, right? Or maybe somebody makes it up on the stage and I go like this, right? That means get off my stage, right? It's a dangerous place, right? But let's say, and this can happen, sometimes you're going to notice in Altspace that you have your your real world hand might be here, but your avatar's hand might be way up here. And when they don't match like that, right, it can throw off your body language. You're not going to be communicating as effectively as it could. So like when I go to wave and go, get off my stage, all anybody's going to see is my avatar's hand going like this, right? And it's going to look like I'm going, hey, everybody, welcome to Go Time. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying get off my stage. It's a very dangerous place. You don't want to get hurt, right? Yeah, trained professional up here. The way you fix this, if this happens to you, right, is, all right, on your controller, you've got your trackpad, and below that you have a button, and below that on the very bottom you have a button. Don't press it now, because if it disappears, I'm going to feel it, right? But if you were to press that one time, you get taken out to the Oculus main menu, right? But this button does something else, and this you can try now. If you look straight ahead and you hold your arm at your side and you press and hold that bottom button down and don't let go, what's going to happen is a white circle is going to spin in the air in front of you, and then your hand is going to snap right into place, right? And when it does, take a good look at your hand and ask yourself, is this where my hand is in the real world? If it is, then you're good, and you don't have to do it again. But if it's not, keep doing it as many times as it takes till you feel comfortable. Only you can determine what feels comfortable for you, right? So, you try that if your hand isn't where you think it should be. Now, another thing that can happen from time to time is you're going to notice that your menu wheel, that collection of circles on the lower left, you're going to find that moves around sometimes in Altspace. Sometimes it'll move in places that it's hard to reach. It'll move in front of you and you feel a little off balance, or it'll move behind you, right? and you won't be able to reach it or even see it if it's behind you, right? And when you lose sight of that, and somebody says, open your main menu, or you want to open a menu to go somewhere, you're going to feel like you're stuck, right? Well, you have to remember that on Oculus Go, your menu's in your hands at all times, right? Just below your trackpad, you have that middle button there, and when you press it, that's going to open up your main menu, right? But this does something else too. If you're looking straight ahead when you do this, and then you press it again, it'll close the menu. But as soon as you close that menu, you're going to find that your menu wheel, that collection of circles with your emoji panel and your personal space bubble and all that good stuff, is right back where it's supposed to be. So if you lose your menu, just look straight ahead and press that middle button on your controller. Your main menu will open up. Press it again, it'll close, and then your menu wheel will return to its right position, or its left position, actually. And you're going to find, that can make you feel more comfortable. All right. Now, one of the best pieces of advice I got when I first started out, right, was some people told me to turn my brightness down. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to have the best graphic experience I could possibly have in Altspace. And to me, that meant having my brightness turned way up to retina burning levels, right? I mean, it was painful, but my graphics were awesome. Or so I thought, right? So what I did was I wanted my battery to last longer. So every time I came into Altspace, I would go to the main menu on the Oculus. When you first turn on your device, you see the Oculus home screen. I'd go over to the right where it said settings, and then in the middle, I'd go to where it said brightness, right? And I turn auto brightness off, and it'd be this big blue bar there. And I would, every time I came into Altspace, I would turn that blue bar down a little bit more and a little bit more until finally the brightness was completely off, right? And I came into Altspace that way, and I could not believe what I saw. Back then, I was helping out in an event, and the space that it was in, there was this tree off in the corner. It was on this island, right? And right before the event began, all the moderators would meet below the tree to hang out. So I'm walking over there, and I just stopped, and I looked up, and I couldn't believe what I saw. That tree looked more real than I'd ever seen it before. And I'd been in Altspace for a while, but it looked like the graphics had gotten way better. So if you turn down your brightness, not only are you going to enjoy better graphics, your device is going to, it's going to perform better, right? But most importantly, your battery is going to last longer. And around then, I started making it through entire events, right? And I was like, this is awesome, right? And around this time, I became aware of why Go users get kind of a bad reputation in Altspace. Let me explain why, right? Turns out on the Oculus Go, there's a very powerful microphone. It's a very high quality, it's a very good microphone. And what happens is the sounds come out of your ear straps, and it gets picked up by the microphone and projected out into Altspace, right? Now, the problem is we don't know what we sound like in here. So you could be a new user, and you can, be coming up to a group of avatars, right? And they're standing there, I'm just standing here, I'm talking to Tom, and all of a sudden I hear this voice, and it sounds incredibly familiar, right? And I turn to see what it is, right? And I hear my voice coming out of your avatar as it was in the past. And now this means if I talk to you, it's going to feel like you're copying me, right? And it's going to make it hard to concentrate on the conversation. And very often you'll see somebody come up to somebody and go, "Are you want to go? Are you want to go?" And that can be like really off-putting when that happens, right? But fortunately, it's very easy to fix this if it happens to you, all right? What you can do, and again, we don't know I didn't know what I sounded like in Altspace until we started filming our events. If you look up, you'll see Raven and I floating up there, right? That's our YouTube channel. And until we got that, I didn't know what I sounded like in Altspace, right? If you want to feel Altspace famous and turn around and wave to the camera, you absolutely can. We got Paul Moldavian here. We've got Sebastian over here. We've got Amanda, PhD. Wow, very, very visual. We also have Jamin Hussein or something. I don't know if I'm saying that right. We got a lot of people in here. We do. All right. So come on in Altspace. I think you'll enjoy it. Right. But yeah, you don't know what you sound like in here. And with that sound delay, right, it can be kind of off-putting when that happens. So it's very easy to take care of this. You're going to notice on the top of your headset on the left-hand side, there's two buttons, right? The leftmost button is the volume down button. To the right of that is the volume up button, right? So if you press either one of these, you're going to see these vertical bars appear in the air. Some will be solid and some will be clear, right? What you're going for is you want 4 clear bars on the right side. This means that your volume is 4 ticks away from the maximum, right? And once it's up there like that, you're going to find that your volume's at a level where it won't be picked up by the microphone as easily, right? So what you can do then is when you have it like this, you're going to notice now people are going to start being nicer to you like right away, right? But the problem is it comes at a price, right? You may occasionally have to strain to hear people, right? And what you can do is you still have that one good hand in the real world, right? You can use that thing. Right now, if you take your left hand and cup it to your left ear, right, you're going to find that the sound of my voice increases. Right, this is a way to temporarily raise the volume up. Or another thing you can do, and this completely take care of the problem, is you can get a pair of headphones and attach them to your device. Or you can get something like me. You can acquire some inexpensive earbuds, and that'll ensure that the only sound coming out of your avatar is your own. Right. And occasionally though, you still may get a family member coming in and say, "Are you still on that thing?" And in that case, you can get them their own headset, right? And this way, you can bring them into VR with you and show them how cool it is, right? And to get everybody doing this. All right, cool. But that should take care of that. Now, once I attached the earbuds to my device, I started to wonder what else could I add to my device to improve my experience, and this led to what I call a Go Plus experience. Right now, Go Plus experience was this: I would go to like worlds in Altspace that were heavy, like on performance, and I'd watch other Go users disappear as they crashed or they'd fall down on the floor like that when they started overheating. And as you just sometimes will see users they'll just disappear right into the floor like that, right? And and I would last. Now, occasionally I would get choppy, but my device was performing way better and it became super reliable, and yours can too. All right. Now, in order to show you how I did this, I'm going to have to discuss these products behind me. But before I do, I like to say that these are just the products that I used, right? It's the ideas behind these products that matter. So if you find another brand that you want to try or maybe a better price, feel free to do that because it's like, again, it's the ideas behind the products that matter. If you want to give any of these a try, though, you may get the temptation to write these things down, right? And that can be tough when you're in VR, right? So what you're going to want to do is we've made it easy for you to get to. What you can do is go to altvr.com and go up to the upper left where it says channels, right? And if you click on that, you're going to see all these event channels that Altspace has. And on the very bottom, you're going to see Ravenhall events, like it says up on the sound booth there, right? When you click on that, you get taken to our event page. And on that event page, on the left-hand side, you're going to see links to all of these products, right? If you want to give any of them a try, right? You'll also see a join Discord button if you want to say hello to us or ask questions or help us put on events like this, right? And also in the upper right, you'll find the most important button on the internet. That's right. That's where they keep it. It's the subscribe button. And when you press that, it lets Altspace know that you enjoy our content, right? And we don't get paid to do this, so it feels really good when we see that number go up. So if you press that, we appreciate that. Likewise, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, that helps a lot. And those of you that are watching on YouTube, if you want to try any of these products out, you can find the links in the description below. All right. Now, speaking of what these products are, you have the Anker Power Core Battery Pack. Now, this was supposed to solve my power issue. It's going to make me last longer in Altspace, right? Because Oculus says that we shouldn't use our devices while they're plugged in. They say it's okay to use an external battery. Now, this one lasts for 16 hours, so I figured I'd be able to go a while with that, and I don't think I'd ever need 16 hours because, food, sleep, water's good too, right? It's important to take breaks. But yeah, so, I figured this would solve that, right? And around that time, I had heard that people were starting to have problems charging their devices, right? And, because you'll notice, like when you go to plug in your device, you notice how tight that port can be, right? And all that wear and tear, over time, the connections, get a little loose and it's not going to charge as effectively, right? But this middle button you have here, right? You have, this middle button, this little middle product here, you have this cable called the MagSafe cable, and you'll have it so that one tip plugs into your headset, right? And that tip stays there. The other end plugs into the battery, the USB connector, and it's held in place by this magnetic connector, which turns out it's a great safety feature, right? So if you move your head suddenly when you're in VR and it pulls on the cable, instead of pulling down your headset and having your whole world turned upside down, the cable will just pop right off because it's just a magnet, right? And you don't even have to come out of VR to fix it. You can just hold up the wire to the side of your headset and it'll kind of thunk into place. And when that happens, if your microphone's open, you're going to hear, what was that? And you can be like, that was power. That was pure power. That's what that was. You don't have to say that. It doesn't make it work any differently. I just found it helpful. Yeah, it was fun to do. And feel free to do that if you like. All right. But now that my power problem was solved, now I had a new problem. And I bet you some of you guys have experienced this. You ever overheat? Anybody here overheat a lot? Because that was happening to me all the time. Now, the faceplate that cools your headset is installed by hand. So as such, people experience different things. Like some people overheat once every half hour. For me, it was about a half hour. Some people, I knew one guy who overheated every 2 minutes. The first go time we had, somebody came up at the end when we take questions and said that their headset, and they sent me a picture of this, where half of their headset became all deformed from the heat, like the plastic had actually melted. And this worried me a lot. I heard some people were combating this with ice packs and putting frozen peas on their headset and stuff like that, right? Listen, that's going to create condensation, right? And that's, water and electricity on your face is probably not a good combination. Right. And the people I know that tried this actually went through more than one headset. All right. I don't recommend doing it. But what I do recommend is this AC Infinity mini fan. It's real small. It fits in the palm of your hand. Right. And what you have to do is you have to attach it to your headset. Some people use string. For me, I use 2 large hair bands, wrapped around the ear straps here, and then made like kind of an X with it to wrap around the rubber feet that's on there. And you got to just make sure that the silver part is facing the faceplate. And when I went to test this, I used to moderate for the meditation event in Altspace, and that's held at a really great space. It's on top of a mountain. There's like smoke up out of the bowls. There's, sunlight streaming down because of the fog. It's really an amazing space. But for some reason, I would always overheat exactly 20 minutes into the experience, right? So when my fan arrived, this was the perfect place to test it because it was always 20 minutes. So I went in there with all these wires hanging down. I had my battery back. I had the fan. I felt like, you ever seen Star Trek, the Borg? I felt like that. I had all these wires. You get used to it. But, so I went to the event like that, and I had the fan on its lowest setting, and I went up to the host, Jeremy, really nice guy. And I told him, I said, can you hear my fan? And he says, not at all. And I said, that's great. So I turned it up to medium power. I said, how about now? And he says, well, I can hear it a little bit, but it's not bad. So I turned it up to full blast. And he goes, you sound like you're in a wind tunnel. You're going to want to turn it down. So to be safe, I turned it all the way down to its lowest setting, right? And I knew, spoiler, I never had to turn it up again. What I did after that was I figured I'd test it, right? So I went in 20 minutes, and I didn't overheat at all. And I was like, all right, this is great. I went through the entire event without overheating, right? And I wanted to see where the line was. So, what happened was I went to I went to a second event. And during that event, I didn't overheat once. And then I went to a third event. I didn't overheat at all. And then I went back to my home space. I hung out with some friends. And you know what happened? I left Altspace for the very first time by choice. I didn't leave because I overheated. I didn't leave because I ran out of power. I left because I actually wanted to. And it was the first time that ever happened. It wouldn't be the last. After that, my device was super reliable, right? I started hosting events. I started monitoring events. I was all over the place. And you can be too. Right? None of this is very expensive. It's just a few small changes, right? Like the minifan here, this is only about $10 or $11 US. This MagSafe cable is only about $7 US. And the most expensive thing up here is the battery pack. That's about $30, $40 US, right? And they come in different sizes and capacities. So maybe you're not going to spend 16 hours in VR, right? Maybe you only spend a few hours a night. So you can get by with a smaller battery pack, right? So you try and find what works for you. All right. Now, that being said, there were still problems being on a Go, and these problems are manageable. All right. The first one I'm going to talk about is a movement issue. Like, let's say, I'm hanging out in Altspace and I turn left to say something to Ashley here. All right. And instead of turning left, I go straight. And I'm like, well, that was weird. Right. And then I go to turn right to say something to Hummingbird. Right. But instead of turning right, I go straight again. And I'm like, well, I didn't mean to do that at all. So I press down on the controller to move backwards, but instead of moving backwards, I move straight again. And I start to panic and I start bashing on buttons. And no matter what happens, I keep moving forward. And the next thing you know, I'm standing inside of an admin. There's nothing more frightening than standing inside of an admin, man. I saw things when I was in there. I saw things about development. I saw things about user accounting. I saw the past. I saw the future. I saw things that keep me up at night. And I'm not going to talk about any of that stuff. But what I am going to talk about is how to fix this if it happens to you, right? Now, your trackpad is sensitive to heat, moisture, and of course, touch, because it's a touchpad, right? Now, what you need to do is if you find yourself moving in ways that you don't want to, you're going to just want to reset that connection. And the way you do this is you take your thumb and you gently swipe it across the trackpad without pressing down. Just as delicately as possible, just swipe and then lift your thumb up and cross over to the other side and come down again and swipe it again. The direction doesn't matter. You can do it from right to left or left to right, any way that works for you. But you do this 2 or 3 times. So basically, if I go to turn to the left, or if I go straight and I turn left instead, right? And that was not what I wanted to do at all. Right? What I'll do is I'll go swipe, 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 and you make it a reflex, and then you come down in the direction that you want to go, and then you'll be moving in the ways that you want to. All right. Another thing that can happen now and then is you're going to put your headset on, and for some reason this only happens when you're in a rush, right? Like you got to be at an event for some reason. You got to get in Altspace in a hurry, and you're going to put your headset on. You're going to see a message that says "can't find controller," right? And when that happens, you're like, oh no, right? Now this can be because you need to replace the battery in your controller, but you put a fresh battery in it last night. Is there going to be times where this just happens? Like maybe your controller found out about your headset's secret life and isn't happy about it, and they're no longer speaking, right? So what do you do when this happens? You don't even have to take your headset off to fix it, right? All you have to do is remember 2 words: double down, right? And what I mean by this is if you just below the trackpad, you have those 2 buttons. If you press those down at the same time and hold them for about 3 or 4 seconds, a little white light's going to appear on the trackpad. And when that happens, you're not going to, if you're wearing your headset, you're not going to see that. But what you will see is after that 3 or 4 seconds, when you lift your thumb up, you're going to find you got your hand back, right? And then you're going to go into the load screen and you're going to be like, man, I am glad I went to Go Time. That Michael Forrest, he knew what he was talking about, right? He told me to double down and now I got to my event on time. So if that happens to you, you're welcome. All right. Now, another thing that can happen is occasionally you're going to find that your screen goes dark in Altspace, right? This doesn't happen as much as it used to. Altspace has made a lot of changes to improve the performance of everyone's experience in here. But what happens is this happens because your memory, everything that's like in this space here, this stage, you got this shiny red button that we use at our end of our events. There's cool special effects that come and stick around for that, right? Well, you're going to find that all this stuff actually takes up memory in your headset. And when that memory fills up, your screen goes dark. But your microphone's still open and your friends will still hear you. And you can say, I'll be right back. And then you just hit that bottom eject button on your controller right? Then that message that comes up that says quit or resume. Resume is great if you press it by accident, but the screen will be dark if you come back like that. But then they got that quit button. You press quit, and then you restart the app, and that's going to stop most of your problems in here, and also reset your memory. So one of the best ways to handle this is get out ahead of it before it happens, right? So like if you've just been to 3 worlds and somebody asks you to go to the campfire can be pretty busy, right? So what you're going to want to do is say, okay, I'll meet you there in a minute. Press that eject button, right? Press quit, restart the app, and you clear it right out. Now, when you go to the campfire, you're going to be able to have a conversation without your screen going dark, right? It's a way of getting ahead of it before it happens. All right, now, normally at this point, I give out some world building tips, but we are a little bit short on time. If you want to hear the world building tips, show me some hearts. And if not, we'll go right into the questions and comments time. All right, so I guess we're going to be skipping it today. Let's go. We got 1 heart. One guy wants it. All right, there's 4 of you, it looks like. 5. All right. Anybody else? Okay, that's 2. All right, so well, let's do this thing. I'll be quick. What happens is now I used to moderate for an event called Building Worlds, and at that event, I'd hear a lot of Go users telling me they couldn't build worlds in Altspace. But you see, it turns out there's a lot of very talented world builders in Altspace that actually build on Oculus Go's. So where do people get this impression from? Well, when you start messing around with the world building beta program, not easy to say, but easy to do. You do it through your settings in your main menu. You're able to build worlds in Altspace, right? And when you first go to do it and you grab an object for that first time, you're going to notice that it's moving in all these different directions. And you're like, what's going on? It takes a while to realize that it's actually your head that's controlling the movement. Right now, I don't know about you guys, but it's really hard to keep a level head in any reality, let alone a virtual one, right? So what you want to do is if you go into your world editor, right, you're going to notice there's a white checkbox down toward the bottom that says lock rotation. Now, if you check lock rotation, what's going to happen is now if you squeeze and release the trigger one time at the object you're trying to edit, right, now you can move it around, right, with your hand to get it level, right? And then if you squeeze and release the trigger again, it'll lock it into place. And you take a look at it and be like, yeah, that's very nice. I can make a mustache with this thing. This is awesome, right? And what you can do now, right, if you got it somewhere you like it, right, what you can do at this point is you can also grab and hold it by squeezing the trigger at the object, right, and not letting go of the trigger this time. Now you're able to move the object up, down, left, and right. And on the trackpad, you can swipe your trackpad up or down to move the object away from you or pull it closer to you. You could also swipe the trackpad left or right, and that'll change the size of the scale of the object. And in addition to that, what you can also do is you can carry it around and place it where you want it. So if I come down up the stage here and I decide, all right, let's put it right here, right? Now, if this was the real world, that would probably be on the floor about now. That's not very good. But on Oculus Go, all you have to do is get close enough, right? And when you have it close to where you want it, you go into your world editor, right? And you look on that list for the object. In this case, it's a laser pointer. So you'd look for where it says laser pointer, and you'd see there's a cogwheel next to it. And if you press on that cogwheel, it's going to open up a panel with all these numbers on it. There'll be numbers for position, rotation, and scale of the size, right? And what you're going to want to do is experiment with those numbers a little bit at a time. So if right now the X of the position says 20, and I change that number to 19, right, the pointer will jump down over here, right, like that. And now I know that any other objects I put in this space, if I mess with those numbers at all, if I move the numbers down, it's going to move in that direction towards the window. That must mean if I raise a number, it's going to move toward that wall over there by Hummingbird, right? Now, so now the more objects I place, the more control I'm going to have over it because it's going to be a little bit easier. You learn through just making these small changes to it, and you figure out like how the object reacts to you, and then you just place another object and then another one, and it gets faster and faster, and before you know it, you've built a world, right? Now, the thing of it is, though, is people will think that that little keyboard they give us to type on, it can be hard to peck messages out. Just from texting each other in here that it can be a little bit tough to type on that thing. But it turns out it's a lot like playing a video game, right? Where when the first time you play a video game, you're just thinking about the controls, like how do you move, right? But after a week, you're not thinking about that. You're thinking, how do I, you're thinking about saving the world. You're thinking about crushing your enemies. That's a great way to spend a Wednesday, right? And it just gets easier and easier the more you do it. When this event is over, we're going to take you guys to Ravenhall Flight Academy and teach you guys how to fly, right? And to do it, we press that red button over there, and this Talon hovercraft's going to fly down the street, and it's going to fly up over those trees in the back and land out there. And, it's a cool effect. I think you'll enjoy it. But when you get there, keep in mind that world was built entirely in less than 2 days on an Oculus Go. All right, it'll give you some idea of what you can do. There's also a teleporter there to Lake Ravenhall. It's a really large world that took a lot longer than 2 days, but it shows in the work. It'll give you some idea of what you're capable of, on building with these devices. All right, now that being said, we are going to take your questions now, if you have any, or comments or anything like that. So we're going to, you're going to see a raise hand button appear in your lower right as if by magic, right? Just press on that raise hand button. I'll get you on my list, and we can take your questions or your comments. And while we wait to fill up, If you're on Twitter and you want to find us, you can find us at Ravenhall @__Uncanny Valley. I know that looks like one underscore, but it's actually two. All right, let's see. We have Paul Moldav again. Let's see. You have a question there, Paul? Where are you? Where'd you go? There. What's up, Paul?
Hello. Hi, Mike. I saw you earlier on the Quest event. I just wanted to say that I get the feeling that, people keep saying that the Go has been discontinued by Facebook and it's no longer supported or something. It's not being marketed to business. So I don't know, but I get the impression that it is implied that Altspace users won't be able to come online wearing a Go in some time.
You know what?
Yeah.
Altspace has supported the Go pretty much from the beginning, right? And they actually made a lot of changes to support the Go. They've been very, very supportive about the Go. That would surprise me a lot, but it has happened. They used to support the Google Daydream, and they stopped supporting that, right? Look, Altspace actually supports probably, I think, more devices than any other platform. I mean, you can connect with people who are on a Rift, people who are on an Index, people who are on Quest. There's all different people who don't even have VR headsets. They come in on a PC. Like I think Dorian right now is on a computer and he's not wearing a headset at all, right? So you're going to see all these different devices. And Altspace has been around for 5 years, so you're going to find support's going to change, just like anything else. Like like Windows will support this program or this app, and then they'll drop support based on time. Nothing lasts forever, right? But it's hopefully they'll support it for a good long time, because there's still a lot of new users coming in on Goes. Right. I mean, if Oculus stops supporting it, that's one thing. It doesn't mean people are going to stop using it. And if they think,
yes, I know that, but let me complete the idea. I think in terms of Altspace allowing users to come online wearing a Go, I think it's a statistics problem, or issue, because they're going to say if 50% of the users are on a Go, we're going to have to keep letting users come in with a Go. And if that number drops to maybe 5% or less, then they can be confident about leaving the Go users out. I mean, I think it's if Go users keep coming in, and even, as you said, new users, that's an indicator of how much the Go platform is still being used.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, really, honestly, I've heard, like, for one thing, there's so many Go users in here right now that, they'd be hurting themselves if they did that. But you're right. If the population went down, they might make an adjustment like that. But I know Altspace places like a lot of pride in the fact that they support so many different devices. And one of the main reasons that they didn't support the Daydream anymore was because they didn't have a programmer to change the code as the updates came out. Right, so they have a limited staff, and they do the best they can with that. But it's an interesting question, and there's no way we can really know for sure. I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see what happens. Right. All right. That being said, if anybody has any questions or comments, right, I'm gonna unmute everybody so we can hear the reaction to this thing. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna press this button right here, and when I press it, direct your attention out this window. You're gonna see a Ravenhall Talon hovercraft, which is a ship that you guys can fly if you want to give it a try. As soon as I press this button, you're gonna see it come right past this window here.
Ravenhall Talon aircraft en route to your position.
Now you see it fly by. It's going to go land out in the back. So if you can, let's go out in the backyard here and meet it as it lands. But if you've learned anything here today, and you're wandering around Altspace and you see somebody saying their face is on fire because they keep overheating, right? Tell them about the fan. Tell them our event page. Tell them about our event. Tell them how to fix that. That's how we help keep this thing going. You'll feel better because you help somebody. They'll feel better because their problem is solved. Okay, now we have the hovercraft landing here now. Right? You can see a blue light come out of it. We'll just go in
Talon aircraft is now boarding outside for transport to the Ravenhall Flight Academy. Please exit the building and step into the blue light. Thank you.
All right, everybody. You've been a great audience. Thanks for coming. See you next time.